Hi everyone, Seth here, and today I'm answering your questions about My Hero Academia, and I have to be 100% honest. Let's get the show on the road. Creator asks, what is your biggest criticism of the story? Let's see. Going in directly to spoilers for the manga, I would say that the author could have used his side characters more, I think. I think that's fair. When I think of Class A, I think primarily of the main characters Deku, Bakugo, Shoto, Uraraka. I think of those characters. Oh, and Ida as well. But Ida's kind of interesting because he doesn't actually tie in to any of the main villains. So it feels like he gets the short end of the stick despite being otherwise kind of prominent. Don't get me wrong, I like his moment with Shoto, but what I mean about the Horikoshi sensei using his cast a bit better is that Ida has an arc about revenge very early on in the show, and it was really good. I feel like Ida could have leveraged that, or excuse me, the author could have leveraged that a bit when it came to, for example, Mina, who struggles with revenge because she feels, of course, very, very sad about the loss of Midnight, and she feels very hateful towards the villains who killed him, or killed her, excuse me. Yeah. So when I think about it that way, I feel like Ida, for example, could have shared his experience with Stain to the class and pushed them, not to fight for revenge because you lose sight of who you want to be when you're consumed with hatred like that. And I think something like that could have given Mina's moment a bit more narrative oomph. It would have connected it more directly to the themes of the story overall. I mean, it already is, connected there. Like, it's a different aspect of the conflict. Like, you see that with Shoji as well, but it's on the flip side where Shoji is not fighting for revenge, but the people he's fighting against are for revenge. So, but you see how that all kind of connects a bit, right? So it's not just Ida. There are other characters where I feel like the author could have integrated them into other plot lines just so that they don't feel like that they're just there. Obviously, you can't do that with everyone, but I feel like there more of an effort could have been made for some characters. So yeah, I think that would be my biggest criticism of the story. Who is your favorite villain? Okay, so that would have to be um that's a good question. So for me, I think it would have to be All for One. The final arc is just really good for the character, and he has too big of a spotlight for him to. What's the word? He kind of needs to carry that arc. You know why? Because he fights against Bakugo. He fights against Endeavor. He fights against Hawks. He fights against Deku. He fights against Shigaraki. Like, that final arc is a lot of All for One. And he does a good job for all things considered. Going into the final arc, yeah, that's tough because you know what? Throughout MHA took a long time to flesh out its villains, and even when it did, the villains never felt truly justified in, well, their villainy because of just the crimes they commit, right? Just the damage they cause to civilians. And to a point, they're also put upon characters. They are quote unquote victims. So, like, their status as quote unquote villain feels a bit muddied. Just a bit muddied for me. But All for One is a true unrepentant villain. Like, in every sense of the word, he's a manipulator, he has a modus operandi, and he has an excellent dynamic with All Might. Like, honestly, the dynamic he has with All Might it might be my favorite dynamic in the show. It rivals All Might and Deku for me. It's really good. Hold on. Let me okay, there we go. Okay, next question. Are there any crack theories you came up with? Yes, I am very embarrassed about this, but one of the crack theories I came up with, you see, and this is sort of leaning into spoilers again, but yeah, you shouldn't be watching this if this deep in. I already told you there would be spoilers. So like, okay, after Toga and Uraraka have their fight, at this point I have no idea that Toga is going to die. That was a surprise. That was dramatic. That was a lot of things. But my crack theory was that she was stayed alive, and that part of the thing that needs to happen is like we need to move characters over to help Deku, right? And I'm like, how are people supposed to get to Deku now, you know? And I'm like, well, Toga can transform into someone who can fly, right? So I'm like, okay, what if she transforms into Tokoyami and uses Dark Shadow to like fly characters over there? Like the idea, my thought was like she would be turned, so she would either want to help people get medical attention or get to Deku. So like that was one of my crack theories, because it's like, yeah, she needs to have a conversation with Hawks, right? That was my thought. So like she's gonna be there. And yeah, Hawks and Tokoyami are very vulnerable, so that would have been tense, but yeah, she gets turned by Uraraka, and then she has to use her powers to help the heroes somehow. So that was kind of my crack theory. Obviously, that was like blown to pieces. Blown to pieces, scattered to the wind. It was kind of fun to say, but yeah, also kind of cringe. Who is the sexiest character to you? Put a pin on that. I'll come back to it because I am not mentally ready to answer this question. Favorite part of your least favorite arc? Okay, so my least favorite arc would probably have to be the licensing exam. There are things that happen in it, but they're like building block things, nothing like too major, right? Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the licensing exam arc. I will say my favorite part, and I'm cheating a little bit because this is like the arc epilogue, but my favorite part was All Might and All For One have their sit-down conversation in the jail. That happens right before Deku sends a text to All Might with the picture of his provisional license. So technically, it's the same arc. And All Might and All For One, again, is one of my favorite dynamics in the show. So, yeah, that would be my favorite part of my least favorite arc. I really don't know what to say about the licensing exam. Like, its highlights are all just kind of meh to me. It really is just a very meh arc. Are there any fan theories that were wrong that you are a fan of? No. I tend to only like theories that sound like they could come true, and they often end up coming true. I would say I didn't like the Dabi is a Todoroki theory until someone pointed out, hey, Dabi is connected to such and such flower, and that happens to be Rei's favorite flower. And yeah, it wasn't until people started really dissecting and looking for hard evidence that Dabi might actually be Todoroki that I started to really vibe with it. It was a thread on Rei and the flower she was, and the flower that Endeavor had given her. Yeah, and this was during the Pro Hero arc, during the Nomu thing, his fight with the high-end Nomu. So I wasn't really on board with that theory until that moment, but that turned out to be true, as we know. So yeah, like I often don't like fan theories because to me they end up. The fan theory has to be based in enough truth for it to like actually happen, and MHA didn't really have a lot of points to make fan theories on that I found compelling, right? Like, how can you wish cast some of these things, you know? Yeah, it's hard to fall in love with fan theories for me, unless they're my own. then I can fall in love with them. But that's because I figured it out in my head. Fan theories are often experiments, or not. What do I want to say? Fan theories are concocted in other people's heads, so it's difficult to connect with them. For me, at least. Unless I feel like they're really connected to the story, and I'm repeating myself, so yeah. Were there some that I thought were interesting? No, not really. I honestly can't think of any that were particularly interesting to me. I didn't like the Ground Zero theory. I don't like Bakugo's name as Ground Zero. I don't think that thematically works. Well, it's not no. I don't think so. Okay, who is the sexiest character? All right, so none of the kids, for a variety of reasons, but just I don't even if I would, yeah, no, I don't see any of them as that. Horikoshi has favorite body types when it comes to women. So actually, it's very difficult for me to look at the women in the show and think, oh, this is for sure the sexiest one, because, well, no, because they're kind of very similar body types to this other character. So I will say that Midnight in a ponytail, fire. Absolute fire design. And I'm not talking about in her hero outfit either. Like, there's a memory in Ultra Impact that she's just in casual clothes. Probably her most conservative dress to date, actually, right? But like, she looks so good in it that I'd be like, yeah, this is it. But if I'm being uncomfortable and honest, I think Endeavor has the most sex appeal. Like, he is the closest to manly ruggedness that I've seen in MHA. No joke. I'm just being honest. I call it how I see it. It's not my thing. But, yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for the questions. I'm looking forward to next time and for making more MHA related content. See you later, okay? Take care. Bye.